that our American friends, the media, know the truth, know exactly what happened in front line, what happened in Ukraine now, and this is the main goal of our briefing today. I try to be very short and started to inform you about the last things which happened in the peace process. You know that not Ukraine started this war, but not more than Ukrainians want to end this war and to achieve a just and lasting peace. For us, it's very important how to end this war. And starting the negotiations in Jeddah between Ukraine and the American delegations, we immediately accepted our president, our delegation, the proposal of American delegation, President Trump, for the full unconditional ceasefire as a first step of the end of this war. Unfortunately, from that period, we didn't see any political will from Russian side to really go as an absolutely logical and very simple step, because it's impossible to talk about peace when you are living under the attack of missiles and drones. Afterwards, technical negotiation in the technical level in Riyadh, also very successful, and already 2 rounds of the meetings in Istanbul. You know that after the first round in Istanbul, then President Putin proposed to start direct negotiations, and President Zelensky accepted, and he was in the exact date, he was in Turkey, but we didn't see there President Putin. President Zelensky decided to send the delegations, and all of us, we are coming to Istanbul. In the morning we have a meeting with our American colleagues, the Secretary of State, the Special Envoy, General Kellogg, but it was a big surprise that before half an hour, 1 hour, we get the information that Russian delegations want to see Americans in the room of this conversation, which is not acceptable for us, because we don't understand how it's possible. We are very appreciate that what doing the President Trump, what doing United States, just that this conversation it started. But in any way it's happened, the Russian delegations committed that we decided it was good because we have the opportunity to exchange of the 1,000 of the prisoners of war. Unfortunately, you can't imagine in what conditions we take our heroes. These people back, and what they explain, they honestly back for the absolutely unhuman conditions. Many of them lost as minimum 40 kilograms, and it's terrible to saw how look the young people. It's impossible to talk about any international law just during the war. Russian committed after this meeting that they sent to us some memo about the conditions of unconditional ceasefire. It just sounds unlogical. 2 weeks, world waiting for such documents. Just before this meeting, second round in Istanbul, nobody can see these documents. We received it during this second round, But after 2 hours, Russians leaked these documents in the Russian media. I'm sure that you have the opportunity to saw these documents. It's absolutely a new version of the capitulations and ultimatum to Ukraine. My deputy of the office, Mr. Igor Brusila, later give you the more deep analysis, juridical analysis of these documents. But what is demonstrated? It demonstrated that Russia not have the able and not have the political will to really go for the end of this war. And if you saw the statements of Dmitry Medvedev and other officials, they just openly said that they don't see as these negotiations and as a way to the peace. They saw as some imitation of the peace process. They still want to occupy its whole Ukraine, but not able. And later you can hear from our military exactly situations in the front line. I think that it's very important now to start to speak with Russia in the languages of strength, because it's one language which this country understands. It's not mean that Ukraine closed the door to continue the negotiations, but it's necessary that Russia coming to these negotiations really with the political will. I just give you the one examples which happened in the second round of the talks in Istanbul. When our delegations presents and gave to the Russians one of the part, the list of the more than 300 deported Ukrainian children, and later you will listen about the general situation about deported Ukrainian children and just have the opportunity to see some real children, their stories. Our delegation listened such a phrase from Mr. Medinsky. He said, please don't stop, please stop this absolutely show which you make with these children. It's show for the old European woman without children. It's what necessary to know about the attitude of these people and this country just to this very, I don't know, it's very painful for us, but it's absolutely, it's about children. It's not about soldiers, it's about children. We don't stop, we will not stop to try and to make our best. And we believe that and now we have the coalition of the many countries who is help us to bring our children to home. President Zelensky started a special initiatives, bring kids back UA, and operational director of this program will explain to you what results would we have. But of course, how many things we need to do, because we are talking about thousands, unfortunately, thousands, thousands of these children. In the end of my speech, I'd like to say that definitely, again, 3 years, it's a long period of time, but believe that Ukrainian nation, Ukraine, we are living, we are continuing to fighting. What happened in the last weekend demonstrated that we are strong enough, we are able to achieve just and lasting peace. We account very much for continuous support of our partners, first of all of United States. And I think the end of this war, the just and lasting peace, it's a very important, not just for Ukraine, because we defend not just our freedom and independence. We defend Europe, we defend free world in our continent, and this is a very important to not lose after these more than 3 years, the faith that Ukraine able to win this war. Win, I meaning that we not pretended for any centimeters of the Russian land. We're talking about our lands. We're talking about our people. We're talking about our security. Thank you very much, and I happy that you will have the opportunity to listen all my colleagues and in details by this very important for us issue, which today we have the opportunity to make the brief in Senate, and it was very helpful and very, I think, successful. Thank you very much for your attention.
You will have opportunity to ask a question afterwards, but now I would like to invite our first speakers. It's Andriy Yermak, First Deputy Minister of Defense of Ukraine, and Pavlo Poliza, Hero of Ukraine, Combat Commander, Colonel of Ukrainian Armed Forces, and Deputy Head, Presidential Office.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, everybody. So today I had an honor to speak to senators in the US Senate. So my mission was to break some Russian narratives and to bring the real picture what we have now in Ukraine. Everybody heard about the memo which Russian Federation brought to Istanbul this week. My point is that Russia is not at the position when they can bring and put at the table nothing but act of capitulation of Ukraine in terms of military. And let me explain you why. Here, for supporting my words, we have the map. And let me give you a couple numbers. In the first month of the full-scale invasion, Russian troops occupied 25.9% of Ukraine's territory. In April 2022, after a successful counter-offensive operation, armed forces of Ukraine and all defense forces were able to deoccupy 7.8% of Ukraine's territory. Then in 2024, Russia occupied 0.5% of Ukraine's territory, and they declare 2024 as a successful year for them. And for last 5 months, Russia occupies 0.2% of Ukraine's territory. It doesn't look like great success, but the cost of every square kilometer for Russians is 167 killed in action soldiers. And that's why we think that Russia is not at the position that allows them to give us some kind of ultimatums and give us the actually nothing but act of capitulation of Ukraine. At the same time, I want to remind all of you that that was unprovoked war, and Ukraine is the victim, first of all. And using this one moment, I want to say thank you for all brothers and sisters in arms which are serving now to Ukraine, to our country, and stands in the first line for our values, for our country and our freedom. And of course, I want to say thank you for to our partners. First of all, the United States and our European partners and actually all free world which support us. Thank you very much. And I think it's important to highlight that Russia, for over 3 years of full-scale invasion, didn't reach any objects that they declared at the beginning of the full-scale invasion. And I'm pretty sure that if anybody asks any soldier in the area of operation, are you tired of war? Probably everyone will say yes. But the next question, are you ready to surrender? I give you 100%. Everybody will say no. But at the same time, we are ready for unconditional ceasefire. The next point of my speech today in Senate was the operation of Spiderweb. I think it's not necessary to stop it in details and look it in details, but just I want to confirm that first of all, that was the operation against legitimate military targets. We are not engaging the civil people like Russia do. And I can confirm that as a result we have 41 strategic bombers targeted. Half of them are completely destroyed, and other half of them are not operating now. And it's important, I think, let you know that we targeted 2 AWACS planes, A-50. Actually, there was the great success for our Secret Service, for all who was involved to this operation, and using this moment, I want to say thank you for them as well. Next slide, please. Here we had a video for 2 minutes about this operation. If you want, we can show you. I think there is a lot of things that you didn't saw. We have the map, the screen. So last couple months we have a lot of talks about the ceasefire, about peace agreement, and Ukraine and all our partners put their efforts to bring the ceasefire to Ukraine. Of course, you hear that Russia tries to speak about that, but without any result. So meanwhile we were speaking, they are planning how to occupy the rest territory of Ukraine. We have information from military intelligence that till the end of September, Russia plans to occupy whole Donetsk and Lugansk regions. Till the end of this year, they are planning to create a buffer zone along the Ukrainian and Russia border in Sumy and Kharkiv region. and they are planning to occupy Kherson to the end of this year as well. And it's interesting, but they have plans even for 2026. The plan for next year is to occupy the whole part of Ukraine, which is situated on the left bank of Dnipro River, and to occupy Odessa region and Mykolaiv region, to cut Ukraine's access to the Black Sea. So here you can make assessment what they think about in reality. Unfortunately, they are not speaking about peace. They are preparing for war. So this is all what I have. Thank you for your time and your attention, and I give the floor to Deputy of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Serhiy Boyev, please.
Thank you, Pavlo. Dear colleagues, I would like to pick up where Pavlo stopped and talk a little bit of what allows Russia to plan to have these aggressive plans. So we believe that what stands behind the Russian war machine are oil revenues and supply chain and industrial support from partners. As you can see, oil revenues are largely what stands behind the ability of Russia to have this high and increasing military budget, which grew 87% from the level of 2022. It's $148 billion. And this is what allows Russia to recruit people, to increase its, replenish its resources, but also to invest in the ramp up of defense industrial production. This is very important to put a stop to the ability of Russia to finance its war machine, to increase its budget, to mobilize its economy. Next page. Russia's oil and gas exports is not just Russia problem. These supercharged profits enable Kremlin to unite its partners around itself through cooperation, strengthening Iran, North Korea, and China. Russia purchases machinery, components for UAVs, and ammunition materials from China. In return, Russia sells China advanced military aircraft, hundreds of aircraft engines, and armored vehicles. The same goes for Iran and North Korea. Moscow sends dozens of aircraft, helicopters, and advanced missile technology. Tehran and Pyongyang provide Russia with millions of artillery rounds, artillery systems, drones, and ballistic missiles. The weapons that Russia and its allies produce today is directed against Ukrainians. However, tomorrow, these weapons may make their way to other parts of the world and be used against the soldiers from the US or from one of the militaries of our partners. Next page. To tackle Russian aggression in 2025, we developed the defense strategy, which has three components: stabilize the front line, protect our sky, our people, our economy, and to impede Russia's ability to generate forces and ramp up defense industrial output. As has been mentioned in the previous speech, we largely stabilize the front line, and we have been quite effective to strike Russia deep in the rear, and you have seen the video proof of that. Next page, please. In maintaining and increasing our capabilities to fight, we are certainly very grateful to the US for standing with us through all this time. You have the best weapons that have helped our soldiers through all these years of war: Patriot systems and interceptors, fighter jets, artillery rounds, HIMARS and missiles for them, GMLRS ATACMS, air munitions, infantry fighting vehicles, famous Bradley and others. We are very keen to establish the framework for making the delivery of such weapons to Ukraine going forward. Next page, please. We also want to deepen our partnership with leading US defense companies such as Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, D&M, General Dynamics, BAE System. Our military is the biggest in Europe and has been the most active user and customer of the US weapons. We believe that US companies will find such partnerships valuable in increasing production of critical weapons that would keep all of us safer. Next page. Ukraine has developed a resilient and highly innovative defense industry, which we believe would make a good partner to US companies. When I joined the Ministry for Strategic Industries, which was responsible for defense industry development back in 2023, the industry, as you can see, was just $1 billion. Together we talk about $35 billion of capacity. 1/3 of this is drones. We are the world's #1 drone producer. Our capacity is more than 10 million drones, what we can produce of all different types. Drones are taking over the artillery as the main lethality weapon at the battlefield. And so we believe that jointly with the US, advanced US technologies, we can really build up some new generation drone warfare capabilities that would make us win this war, be safe, bring peace to Europe, but also to build the capabilities that would contribute to the capabilities of the US and of all our partners. Next page. To summarize, I would like to emphasize that to compel Russia to pursue peace, we need to stop its ability to fuel its war machine. It is critical to enact sanctions on any country that buys Russian oil or sells components to Russian defense industry. On the battlefield, we need long-term mega deal of advanced US weapon supply. We are very keen to enter into co-production mega projects to produce advanced US weapons. From our side, we are ready to offer our knowledge and expertise in drone and other innovative products. These economic and military elements will form the foundation of our strengths, our joint strengths that will end this war and bring the lasting peace. Thank you.
Let me now invite advisor to the President and Presidential Envoy on Sanction Policy, Vladislavs Vlasov.
Next slide. Thank you for coming, dear folks. So just a couple of words what we've been briefing the honorable senators about the sanctions today in the morning. So first point would be the figure 595 billion. That is what we believe Russia made out of exporting the oil since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. We think that this is the massive number, and this is exactly what keeps their financial system stable and the war going on. One next figure to flag is that 70% of the oil being purchased by China plus India, and that number really increased, or this share really increased after the beginning of the full-scale invasion. So we think that there is direct connection between who actually pays to Russia for what they've been doing against Ukraine. Next slide. Another slide. This is to the point, would the sanctions against Shadow Fleet be as a disrupting of the global markets of the oil? We believe not. Not a single round of sanctions ever disrupted the global markets or increased the prices at the global markets of oil. So we do think that no further actions in this area will disrupt the markets, and we think that this is really strong point. Another point is to the question whether the sanctions against the Shadow Fleet has actually been efficient. Yes, we think yes. So first, that Russia has not made extra 150 billion selling the oil just because of the sanctions. So this is the direct impact of the sanctions. And second is the vessels which been designated by the US government. This is total 211 vessels. Not more than 36% of them are actually operational after that, but still 36% of the operational vessel. This is also the figure which we do not like. Next slide. This is the compare the efficiency of the sanctions. So we think that the US sanctions against Russian Shadow Fleet have proved them to be the most efficient sanctions, again for the same reasons. The only not good situation is that at this moment the US has sanctioned less vessels as any other sanction countries, sanction coalition countries. And this is also to remember that there is a clear cross in between the Iranian Shadow Fleet and Russian Shadow Fleet. So at least 87 vessels are exactly the same, helping to carry around both Iranian oil and Russian oil. Next slide. So should the introduced Lindsey Graham's bill be adopted, what that will lead to? our modest estimation is that that will deny Russia from getting extra 60 billion euros revenues of oil exports by the end of this year. This is, to remind, this is exactly the same number how much the Russians sent or spent on waging the war for a year. So this is equal to 1 year war budget. And we also remember that there is still the LNG being purchased by European Union from Russia, and we think that the US exporters could easily substitute that. So this concludes our presentation. We believe that we have to impose more sanctions against Russia, and we have to say that the sanctions been working effectively, and we think that the more sanctions will also create very correct impact against Russian economy. Thank you so much.
Let me now invite Daria Zarivna, Operations Director of President Zelensky Bring Kids Back UA initiative.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm humbled and honored to be here, but my reason is tragic. Russians are stealing Ukrainian children. I'm representing here the Bring Kids Back UA, an initiative launched by President Zelensky in 2023, which aims to return all the illegally deported and forcibly transferred Ukrainian children and unites the efforts of Ukrainian government, civil society and international partners to return those children and to support them with a proper reintegration and rehabilitation program. I want to start by sharing the story of Ilya from Mariupol. Please switch on the. We ask to insist for the return for at least some of these children as a part of confidence-building measures in negotiations. We think that US diplomacy can be essential for breaking this deadlock. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. I want to say that America has always stood for the innocent, for the freedom. And now I kindly ask you to help the most vulnerable ones. Please help us bring kids back to Ukraine. Thank you for your attention.
Let me now invite Viktor Zelensky, Head of State Service of Ukraine for Ethnic Policy.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking about religious freedom and religious persecution in Ukraine. Ukraine is stronghold of religious freedom all over the Central and Eastern Europe, and at the same time, Ukraine is a Bible belt for Central and Eastern Europe. Ukraine is proud to be the center of religious freedom. Ukraine is proud to have 35,000 religious congregations of different faiths, and religious pluralism and religious collaboration between different congregations is hallmarks of religious landscape of Ukraine. People of different faith held the highest position in Ukrainian political, cultural, and military establishment. People of absolutely different ethnic origin held the highest position in Ukrainian government. Religious freedom ends when and where Russians military come. From the very beginning of full-scale invasion, Russians start to kill pastors, clerics, and clergymen of different faiths. Many of them were killed deliberately, being in liturgical vestment, like priest Maxim Kozachina from Kiev region, like Dudarenko, like priest Grigory Polonchak, who was kidnapped and murdered last February. Additionally, Russians destroyed, damaged, or demolished 630 sacred buildings, cathedrals, mosques, synagogues, and sites of worship. I would like to give panel to Pastor Michael Britsyn from Ukrainian town of Melitopol, occupied now by Russians, who went through all this, how to say, paradise of Russian occupation in terms of religious persecution, and who has his own tragic story about this. Please, Pastor Mike.
I praise God for the opportunity to say today from the behalf of people who now live in occupied territory. I was ordained in 1992. We restored old historical evangelical building and church over there. The church was built in 1914. In 1936, Soviet government took away that building and killed all pastors there. We restored this building in 1991. We opened the door and we enjoyed 30 years of religious freedom in Ukraine. But in 2022, Russian occupied our city. A big church became a church on occupied territory. It was really difficult to survive first days and first weeks of occupation. I still remember empty shelves of old Soviet Union era. That era came back to that territory. And churches became humanitarian hubs. We help people to survive there. We serve them as we did it for all last 30 years. But all what we did was against Russian propaganda. So they try to buy us as the pastors, then threaten us, then they try to arrest us, and then deported us from that territory. Next slide. Next slide. September 11th, 2022. During worship service, 20 armed Russian soldiers came to our worship service. They blocked people in sanctuary, they fingerprint everybody, they put documents, photos, addresses. They interrogated my colleague ministers, they interrogated me separately. They banned our church, they seized our building, and they cut cross. They put these portraits on our church, and they make the Ministry of Cultural from our church building. They praise Putin on the stage where we used to praise God. Next. They cut another cross of Pentecostal church and put old Soviet car instead. This is the level of their cultural, and I'm sure to make statement that Pushkin, Dostoevsky, and ballet doesn't make people more cultural. God, the Creator, makes people more cultural when we reflect His creativity and His harmony. Next. Now I work in Mission Eurasia. I live in Ukraine. I have a lot of contacts, and we make special report, Face Under Russia Terror, which give you a lot of analytics and information and statistics about killed people and banned organization. A lot of people really were killed. And I have my database of all killed priests and pastors. And there is no chaplains or those who was mobilized and have military duty. No, it's completely 100% civilian people. Just 2 days ago, this list, it's for one more person. Olga, the choir director in Zaporozhye area of Orthodox Church, were killed by missile. And I thank you for your attention to our delegation, to our stories, and I would pray for you, in order you like a preacher from old Bible texts choose one and make sermon in order to build up their people. I will pray for you in order from all events you will choose the events and make the news in order to build up your society. May God bless you.
And our final presentation is from Yulia Sviridenko, Minister of Economy of Ukraine, First Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you so much. I know that you are tight, so I will be briefly. One of the topics that we discussed during these last 2 days in Washington, it was how to make the operational fund that have been settled with our U.S. partner, U.S.-Ukraine Investment Fund, aimed to invest in critical raw materials projects. And I just want to remind you that Ukraine is going to make our own contribution from the revenues goes from royalty payments, license fees, and it's very important that we create a legal framework that allows U.S. partner to contribute both with financial investment and also defense assistance. So it's something that allows us to get a new assistance through this fund. Then I would want to show you the map on the critical raw materials. I hope that it will be useful for you. You might see that Ukraine possesses one of the largest critical raw materials resources based in Europe, and it makes strategically important for such sectors like defense, like electric mobiles, green transition. And you might look at the estimated reserves that we have and potential reserves. Also, during the next slide, I will show you that what is the dependence of United States from the import that you have from China and Russia in terms of critical raw materials. And I want to underline that U.S. imports 70% of rare earths from China. This is essential to power industry, was worth tens of billions, such as robotics, green tech, and defense. So now China is restricting its export, and I think it's time for Ukraine to step in. We have two largest deposits of rare earth elements, one in the central of Ukraine and another one at the east. So if you look at the graphite, and you might see that right now imports over 90% of its processed graphite from China, and Ukraine also has one of the biggest reserves in Europe, over 330 million tons, and we already have operating sites and other projects that are already ready for implementation. And the same, I think titanium is extremely important both for Ukraine and for United States, as titanium used in defense industry, in aerospace industry, and China and Russia dominate the global titanium market, especially in powder grade titanium, and United States today imports over 90% of this material, including for military aircraft. And actually I can speak and I could give you a very broad understanding of what we have in terms of critical raw materials, but I think that it's important to know that we have not only this list of critical raw materials and deposits, but also very concrete investment-ready projects. The investment projects are worth around $7 billion. So it means that we are open for U.S. investment, for U.S. technology. And today we had several meetings with Secretary Bessent, with DFC as a general partner of this fund, and we discussed very concrete steps how to make this fund operational during this year. So we plan to have the first board meeting of this fund on July, and we would discuss what will be the seed capital to start operate this fund, and actually we should adopt the investment strategy for this fund for the next few years. So that's why I think that we had very concrete meetings, and I'm grateful that U.S. has a long-term view on cooperation with Ukraine in terms of investment, and we are open for the cooperation with our U.S. partner. So very briefly.
Hey guys, we have time maybe for 2-3 questions. So I would like to start with Fox first. Yeah.
My question is for Andriy Yermak. Thank you. Thanks for doing this. Today marks the first day, the first time the U.S. Defense Secretary has not attended the Ukraine Defense Contact Group in more than 3 years since the group has begun. What message does Ukraine take away from that? And my second question is, what weapons does Ukraine need most from the United States right now?
Our cooperation with the United States, it's continuing. Honestly, I don't know the all details about non-presence of the Secretary of Defense today in the Rammstein group. But what I definitely know that, as I said, that our cooperation is continue. We are discussed the next steps, and just during these 2 days we have the opportunity to talk, and in White House, in the State Department, and in the Hills. What about what we need? It's maybe most right to ask these questions, Pavlo, if you can join to me. But what I can say from my side, what is the most important for us, what President Zelensky mentioned in all his speech, we need more air defense. It's still a very big problem for us because we can't protect our city, and in a difference, as I said in my speech, in a difference of the Russians, we work for against the especially military objects. Unfortunately, Russia continue attack our civilians, and the pictures which you can see in the news, it's absolutely a reality of our every day, every night. Just yesterday it was in Sumy, several people was killed, and we exactly know that this is not because it's mistakenly took in some place. You remember what happened in the Children's Hospital Ahmadit in Kiev, and we exactly know they hit it directly to hospital in which we have the children with the cancer disease. Maybe you want to add something about shortly about what military we are exactly.
Yeah, okay, I'll try.
Please have the mic.
Mike.
Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'll try. So, agree. Our first priority is air defense systems and the ammunition and rockets for air defense. First of all, to protect our territory, our cities, and our objects of critical infrastructure from the sky. And of course, we still need to keep our platforms. I mean, from which we get from our partners operational. So we need some parts to maintain, to sustain them, and of course it's artillery rounds. In general, that's all.
Thank you. One more question. Okay, Jennifer. Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer Hansorosina. My question is also for Mr. Yermak. As you probably saw, sir, President Trump put out a statement about his call with President Putin, saying he had been warned there'll be retaliation, but it didn't seem he dissuaded him from trying to retaliate for Operation Spiderweb. Are you concerned that Trump's posts and comments are undercutting efforts to get to a peace? What did they tell you about negotiation next steps? And did they express any concerns about Operation Spiderweb?
Look, first of all, I saw in the last tweet of President Trump about his support of the bill in the more active steps from Congress, which can give the President Trump additional instruments to go forward of the peace process. As I said in my speech, we are very appreciate that nevertheless of the lot of circumstances, President Trump continue to work and continue to demonstrate that he really wants to end this war. In this way, it's not a simple way, and it's necessary that really Russia will start to demonstrate the political will. You know that the president sent us, our president sent us to Jeddah to the first round of the meetings with the American delegations. He asked me and the members of delegation that we need to back with two decisions. First, we need to take off any questions to Ukraine. We need to be in the position then for Ukraine, for our position, will be zero questions. That no, we are victim of aggression, but we are demonstrated, we are clear, we are constructive, and we are do everything and all the best to stop this war and to achieve the just and lasting peace. And the second, it was to beg for the delivery of the weapons and to exchange of the intelligence informations. I'm happy that our delegation back with both two results. Now we in the right track. We have the lot of, I just wanted to list it because you maybe not believe how it's possible during the 48 hours to have such numbers of the meetings, but it's true, it's reality. We have very constructive, and I'm very happy that we have this dialogue in the different levels. First of all, in the level between our leaders, in the level of the military, in the level of intelligence, in the level of the national security advisor, in the level of the Secretary of State and Foreign Minister. And let's go forward, but this way. Again, it's not simple way. We definitely know who is Russians. I'm headed the delegation in the Normandy format. And believe me, we have 200 rounds negotiation with Russia before full-scale invasion. Sometimes it was 10, 12 hours without any results. In the presence of the France and Germany, who is definitely want to help, and always coming and try to help us to achieve the solutions. I think it's mostly necessary to think for the future. I think it will be a very important meeting in G7 in Canada, in which also invited President Zelensky. I think it's time, as my colleague said, at what we discussed during these 2 days, to increase the pressure to Russia. We are very much looking for the new sanctions, and it's necessary to create right atmosphere. Then the Russia go to negotiation, but go not make a show for concrete and real negotiation. And one very important point, we will continue to insist that on the table of these negotiations have to be United States, have to be our European friends and partners, because future of Ukraine is in European Union, and this is absolutely logical that if we discussed of the biggest war in the European continent after the Second World War, and if we're talking about security, new security mechanism for the future, it's important that European friends, European country will be on the table. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have time. I think you heard the most critical question you wanted to hear the answer to. I just want to clarify one point that Mr. Yermak was referring to in his speech. He said that Russians didn't want to see American colleagues in the room, if it wasn't clear for someone.
That was referring to in Istanbul.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So thank you very much, and see you next time.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody, dear friends, and it's a big pleasure to be with you today. and we decided to meet with you in the end of our very productive 2 days in DC. But you know, we think that it's a very important, especially now after 3 years, more than 3 years of this terrible war, Russia against Ukraine, that our American friends, the media know the truth, know exactly what happened in front line, what happened in Ukraine now. And this is the main goal of our briefing today. I try to be very short and started to inform you about the last things which happened in the peace process. You know that not Ukraine started this war, but not more than Ukrainians want to end this war and to achieve a just and lasting peace. For us, it's very important how to end this war. And starting the negotiations in Jeddah between Ukraine and the American delegations, we immediately accepted our president, our delegation, the proposal of American delegation, President Trump, for the full unconditional ceasefire as a first step of the end of this war. Unfortunately, from that period, we didn't see any political will from Russian side to really go as an absolutely logical and very simple step, because it's impossible to talk about peace when you are living under the attack of missiles and drones. Afterwards, technical negotiation in the technical level in Riyadh, also very successful, and already 2 rounds of the meetings in Istanbul. You know that after the first round in Istanbul, then President Putin proposed to start direct negotiations, and President Zelensky accepted, and he was in the exact date, he was in Turkey, but we didn't see there President Putin. President Zelensky decided to send the delegations, and all of us, we are coming to Istanbul. In the morning we have a meeting with our American colleagues, the Secretary of State, the Special Envoy, General Kellock. But it was a big surprise that before half an hour, 1 hour, we get the information that Russian delegations want to see Americans in the room of this conversation, which is not acceptable for us, because we don't understand how it's possible. We are very appreciate that what doing the President Trump, what doing United States, just that this conversation it started. But anyway, it's happened. The Russian delegations committed that we decided it was good because we have the opportunity to exchange of the 1,000 of the prisoners of war. Unfortunately, you can't imagine in what conditions we take our heroes. These people back, and what they explain, they honestly back for the absolutely unhuman conditions. Many of them lost as minimum 40 kilograms, and it's terrible to saw how look the young people. It's impossible to talk about any international law just during the war. Russian committed after this meeting that they sent to us some memo about the conditions of unconditional ceasefire. It just sounds unlogical. 2 weeks, world waiting for such documents. Just before this meeting, second round in Istanbul, nobody can see these documents. We received it during this second round, but after 2 hours, Russians leaked these documents in the Russian media. I'm sure that you have the opportunity to saw these documents. It's absolutely a new version of the capitulations and ultimatum to Ukraine. My deputy of the office, Mr. Igor Brusila, later give you the more deep analysis, juridical analysis of these documents. But what is demonstrated? It demonstrated that Russia not have the able and want not have the political will to really go for the end of this war. And if you saw the statements of Dmitry Medvedev and other officials, they just openly said that they don't see as these negotiations and as a way to the peace. They saw as some imitation of the peace process. They still want to occupy whole Ukraine, but not able. And later you can heard from our military exactly situations in the front line. I think that it's very important now to start to speak with Russia in the languages of strength, because it's one language which this country understands. It's not mean that Ukraine closed the door to continue the negotiations, but it's necessary that Russia coming to these negotiations really with the political will. I just give you the one examples which happened in the second round of the talks in Istanbul. When our delegations presents and gave to the Russians one of the part, the list of the more than 300 deported Ukrainian children, and later you will listen about the general situation about deported Ukrainian children and just have the opportunity to see some real children at their stories. Our delegation listened such a phrase from Mr. Medinsky. He said, please don't stop, please stop this absolutely show which you make with these children. It's show for the old European woman without children. It's what necessary to know about the attitude of these people and this country just to this very, I don't know, it's very painful for us, but it's absolutely, it's about children. It's not about soldiers, it's about children. We don't stop, we will not stop to try and to make our best. And we believe that and now we have the coalition of the many countries who is help us to bring our children to home. President Zelensky started a special initiatives, bring kids back UA, and operational